Why do women cheat so often? It's very easy to explain. The thing is, the entire initial phase of a relationship consists of very memorable, bright events, and emotions can even overwhelm us at that moment. When people might argue about who missed the other more, they always send some emoji before bed. This continues with a joint trip to the sea. Then come plans to live together. You both wait for it to happen. That is, you are constantly in some kind of anticipation. And by the way, this releases dopamine. Then there might be pregnancy and then childbirth. Notice, each new event is a certain raising of the stakes. One event is cooler, brighter, and more emotional than the last. This is a certain progression. And then what? What happens after that? Nothing. All the emotional events in the relationship, are over. Then monotony and daily life begin. Then obligations start. That is, you have to invest effort into the family. So if at the beginning you felt enthusiasm, you became more active, you needed fewer hours of sleep, you sit and wait for meetings filled with positive emotions, hormones, sensations, and everything else. Here, family will start taking your energy. What does an unprepared person do at this moment? They think, where did I end up? I didn't sign up for this. I'm sorry. Of course, the person tolerates it for a while, becomes more whimsical. The woman becomes dissatisfied, but she clearly understands one thing. What's the way out? To experience these events again. Is that possible to do? To live through them again? Well, yes, it's possible. Just not with you. Cheating becomes the only option and way to get those emotions again. Most people watching this video don't take any of this seriously. They opened the video, watched it, and said to themselves, well, that's a strange take. This isn't a take. This is exactly what will happen in the lives of most people you know. They won't withstand this contrast when they are plunged from hot to cold. But if we're talking about sensible men, they not only mentally prepare themselves for this, but also the woman. The man understands that her behavior in the romantic phase will fundamentally differ from her behavior later on. That her behavior at the beginning will be much better than later. At least there will be a difference. And there are no examples of a woman behaving worse at the beginning of a relationship and then starting to behave better in married life. How people try to deceive themselves in every way. Many genuinely believe, and they ask such questions. Is it possible that when we get married, when a child appears, she'll get better? The person doesn't even understand what they're saying. She receives a lot of hormones at the beginning. That's not the real her. That's her best version, multiplied by 3. That's 300%. And what will happen later, when family life begins, won't even be 100%, because she's already burdened by obligations, responsibilities. Maybe she didn't get enough sleep, and so on. It won't even be 100%. That's the reality. But no one talks about this. You haven't read about it in books or movies, anywhere. Proper awareness helps to have good relationships. A person suffers not because they want their partner less at some point, but because they simply expected something else. For them, it's a surprise. The beginning of a relationship is indescribable pleasure, incredible attraction, that state each of us has experienced. But there's a fact you just have to accept. One partner's feelings will definitely fade one day. The thing is, if any hormone is produced in our body with double or triple the force, the body tries to find balance and can, for example, lower the number of receptors. As a result, dopamine will be lowered to an adequate level. People's misconception is that they expect infatuation to last forever. That won't happen. One day, dopamine-fueled relationships transition into the category of oxytocin-fueled ones. What are oxytocin-fueled relationships? It's just a feeling of a certain closeness. When a wife leaves her husband, she often tells the psychologist, "I'm just used to him. I don't love him anymore." No, it's not just habit. Relationships are built precisely on this fuel. Real family life is built mainly on this feeling, but only 10% of people understand all this. Only 10% of people adapt to the new reality, and 90% of people don't. People start to argue, fight, divorce, and of course most often, cheat. What's the global problem? The problem is that you are all deceived. Most of you believe, that this can last forever. If you entered a relationship with such an idea, with such expectations, then you will suffer, you will be unhappy. But if you know from the start, yes, this will happen, but it's still temporary. Before entering a relationship, a person should inoculate themselves against infidelity. But we're going to talk specifically about women now. The first phase is a fleeting glance at handsome men. This can happen while watching a movie, it can be on social media, it can be in real life when we linger our gaze a little. Why do we do this? Because right now, the person gets dopamine from looking at someone else, this physiological biochemical attraction, and it's very naive to assume that it will stop there. No. The second stage is already a double dose of reward when attention is paid to us. When a handsome man looks at a woman, not her at him, but him at her. And if you think women wear stockings, do their makeup, and work out their glutes at the gym exclusively for their husband, then you are very naive people. Every second woman is preparing herself for infidelity. The third stage is already flirting disguised as politeness. Like, well, what's the big deal? Moreover, this can literally be done in front of the husband, and he can't call her out on it. The fourth stage is already overt flirting. Well, overt in that it also proceeds within certain rules of interaction. It could be a fitness trainer. She came to training but just struck a certain pose. It could be a boss, but some little joke slipped out. Yes, it could be her colleague. People are already sending each other signals of attraction. Yes, but they don't say it directly. And since they don't say it directly, it's not necessarily a crime, although they are very close. And it's important to understand that it's very difficult for a person to stop. And the thing is, there is no woman who would cheat without going through these stages. That is, if it is customary for a woman to be friends with men. I have a question for you. How many relationships do you know where infidelity occurred after 2 or 3 months? I suppose you probably don't even know any such stories. And why? Because there are no motives to cheat. Over this short distance, the motive appears when the relationship switches from dopamine-fueled to oxytocin-fueled. And that takes several years. It's not a quick process. Impressions and emotional intensity in long-term relationships gradually decrease. What does our body do? When there isn't enough of a certain hormone, it increases the number of receptors. That is, to react more powerfully to that small dosage. A good family life is a large number of these receptors. It's high sensitivity to experience every small positive moment very, very brightly together. The danger lies in the fact that if something else is introduced from outside into this huge number of receptors at some point, she'll look at another guy. This can lead to infidelity. I'll even say more. She can receive oxytocin from her husband and dopamine from another. And from the fact that she hides from her husband that she's communicating with another, she gets adrenaline. What do long-term relationships represent? It's a situation where during the initial dopamine-fueled attachment for several years, you are, figuratively speaking, paid extra for not cheating on each other. It's profitable for you to be faithful, because the pleasure center is currently here, within the relationship. But one day, perhaps, when you have children, maybe after about 5 years, everything changes. One of you, well, the woman, let's say, starts getting paid extra to cheat, because dopamine is now on the side. At first, the temptation will be small, but then the scale of the temptation can be such that it might just make her tremble from this state. Well, or a man might tremble, feel physically and mentally ill. It can get to that point. Well, but people who succumb to these impulses will never know about it. One should enter long-term relationships with a clear, firm understanding that you will definitely be tempted to cheat at some point, and even if a miracle happens and you're not tempted, there will still be some temptations. But what you can't doubt is that if a person started a relationship solely for pleasure, then a bad prospect eventually opens up before them. Either they have to cheat, because pleasure will eventually be there, with another person, or endure. But enduring also means suffering. We must have a sober and adequate view of things. We must understand what you have in common, what connects you with a woman beyond infatuation, attraction, and shared jokes. It's very easy to spot a potential cheater. Such a girl doesn't have the habit or tradition of sacrificing. For example, a good friend isn't just someone you have fun with. No, it's someone who gave you something of themselves. They made a sacrifice. They helped you in circumstances where it was absolutely inconvenient to do so. But what confuses people? People can be confused by the fact that in relationships, everything works by different rules, because infatuation is inherently a benefit. How is reliability assessed? Yes, in a woman's love, It's measured by the number of episodes in life when a woman was able, and, importantly, willing to push her emotions and needs to the background for, say, a boyfriend. But not because she suffered, not because she was in love, but simply because it's part of her beliefs. Any kind acts within the framework of infatuation. You know what they can be compared to? Lend a stranger $10 million, and you'll quickly start worrying about their health, and you'll worry even more about the debt. We all want a caring girlfriend. Yes. And what is care? It's a sacrifice of time and effort. We all want a loyal girlfriend. And what is that? It's a sacrifice of an excess, an abundance of emotions and sensations. We all want a good-natured, not easily offended woman. And this is the most important sacrifice, to quell one's pride and ego, which make us indignant, irritated, and dismissive and offended. And so when you meet a woman who tells you directly, "I want to be happy, that's my life goal," well, what do you think? Does such a woman plan to sacrifice anything at all? No, she plans to receive and to receive even more, apparently, than she's receiving now. Well, judging by her statement, a cheater is an addict who needs the maximum extreme dosage of emotions, and an addict has no empathy. But what's the difficulty? It's that a man can't always quickly spot such a woman. Like addicts, are they often in remission? What is remission for a cheater? It's the honeymoon phase, that feeling of being completely in love. While she's in love, she'll even cook you dinner. But eventually, another guy will come along and drive her crazy, because each new day in a relationship doesn't really intensify the excitement, and it's impossible to feel the same thrill 5 years into a relationship as you did on the third date. So, there's a category of women who are literally programmed to cheat. It's like a car having a hidden defect that just pops up at a certain mileage, and there's no man, at least I haven't seen one, who, could say in advance, "Ha! I knew my wife would cheat on me." No, each of us thinks we are completely immune to such events. That is, it won't happen to me. Well, it's not uncommon for a man to actually encourage a woman to cheat, openly approving of a revealing appearance, even posting joint photos with her where she's not wearing much clothing. Thank you all very much for watching.